In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to get from an IELTS band 7.5 to an IELTS band 8 without rewriting. So if you're interested in finding out how exactly you can get that done, keep watching this video. First of all, IELTS is an English exam. If you're here, then that means you already know all about what IELTS is. Now, the thing about IELTS is that for some reason, it expires every 2 years. And so what that means is apparently we forget to speak English every 2 years, and they need to retest us to realize or to figure out if we know English or if we still remember how to speak English. Now, the issue is a lot of people tend to think that IELTS can be a little bit tricky and it's a little bit too difficult, and so then they opt for other English exams like the PTE or TOEFL or whatever else is out there. Now, I am an IELTS veteran, let's put it that way. I've been writing IELTS for a while. I've kind of figured out some tips and tricks on how to navigate IELTS. But let me tell you, this last time that I wrote IELTS, I wasn't ready. I just was not ready for the results that I got, because I was like, oh, it's IELTS, I know what to do. I did have a 2-week prep time because I always tell people preparation is very necessary. You can't just walk in and expect to do really well. It has nothing to do with whether or not you know how to speak English. IELTS can be tricky, so there's a format, and when you go in, you follow that format and you smash it and you come out with great results. What had happened was I went in and I wrote my IELTS exam for immigration, which is, you know, the major reason why people do IELTS, also for coming in to study as well, basically for university, and other reasons why people do IELTS, but mine was specifically for immigration, right? I was putting in an application for my permanent residency and I needed to write my IELTS exam. For you to get 20 points, because Australia was operating by a points-based system, I know what's happening now. A lot of things have changed, but for you to get 20 points, you have to demonstrate that you have something called superior English. And superior English means you have to have a band 8 across the board for IELTS. So story time. I went in there, I prepared as much as I could. I had my format. Again, if you want to know exactly what my format is for acing IELTS, especially when it comes to writing, because that seems to be the difficult band, comment down below for me to give you that trick and that tip on the exact structure that you can go in and ace every time. I had my format. I was 100% sure that I wasn't going to have to rewrite this exam. A little bit cocky if you ask me. But anyways, after writing the exam, the results came through. I got a band 9, an 8.5, an 8 and a 7.5. And so there's this conspiracy theory out there that sometimes I also just take a point or a 0.5 from you just so you have to pay to rewrite. I know people that have written IELTS, I kid you not, 10 times. 10 times. And one of the, let me just check, because I have my computer right here in front of me. So writing IELTS one time is about 395 Australian dollars. So 10 times, that's 3,950 Australian, that's a lot of money. That's too much. It's too much. People just tend to just go back to back. As they're failing, they're booking the next one and all that. So I'm here to tell you, if you're prepared for your IELTS exam, you do not need to go back and write multiple times. Now, I got the band 7.5, and you know, just naturally, I mean, I am a writer. That's what I do for a living. I write research articles for publications as a researcher. So getting a 7.5 in writing it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, to say the least. And because I knew I had my structure and because I knew I had prepared, again, I keep mentioning preparation because preparation is key. I was pretty confident in going and requesting for a remark. Now, what I want to point out to you guys are certain things that people don't realize about IELTS remarking. I'm the kind of person that goes behind the scenes and gets the information that I need. That way, I'm making an informed decision rather than just going off of what everybody else is doing. So I went behind the scenes. I kind of Googled to see, what does an IELTS remark look like? And basically, if you go on the IELTS website, literally just go into Google and type IELTS remark or remark IELTS. And what pops up is this website right here. And it's called the IELTS Inquiry on Results. So it starts off with saying, didn't get the results you need. Of course not, go figure. We understand the frustration. Do you really? Okay. Good news is that you can request a remark, but then it goes on to say you have to do it within 6 weeks of sitting your test. chances are you need the results ASAP. So you would be right within this time limit. This is the trick. It says you may choose to have one or more test modules remarked, and the fee is $176 regardless. Now, this is where the first tip comes in. Most people will say, oh, well, you know what? I've got a band 8 in every other band. And so what I really need to focus on is the writing, where I got a 7.5. And I want them to just remark the writing. As a lecturer, and I do mark a lot of student exams, student essays, and things like that, I can tell you straight up that that's not a good idea. When you focus on remarking just the writing, then the person remarking automatically has the ability to find a fault easily while they're remarking your paper. Okay, what that means is, for instance, if you've been a student, you know that you've probably asked your lecturer to remark one of your papers on 1 or 2 occasions. And you've brought the paper to the lecturer, and then they've pointed out all the ways that they could have even marked you a lot lower and how nice they were to give you that score. That's because it's so focused. Now, the trick here is when you tell them to remark everything, they don't specifically know which area you want them to focus on. Mind you, the person remarking your IELTS is not the same person that marked the first one. So they have no idea what your scores are, and this is IELTS' way of keeping it fair. The person remarking your paper is different from the person that marked it initially. So this person has no idea what your first score was. If you did well in speaking and they've listened to your speaking test, and they're thinking, oh, this person speaks really well. Okay, the next band would be listening, and you also did well there. There's a chance that they're like, well, this person is really good. We are humans. Remember, we're trying to play with the human mind and the logic. You have a chance of doing well, especially if you've done well in the other bands, because you haven't given them one particular band to focus on. So that right there is a trick. When I applied for my remark, I said, yeah, remark everything. Remark everything. You know why? You have nothing to lose. IELTS also specifically say that they cannot reduce your mark. They cannot reduce your score. You can only get an upgrade or the same. And now look what happens when you get an upgrade. It says, you will be notified of the remark results within 2 to 21 days. Mine took about a week. Of receipt of your application. If your result is changed to a higher band score, they will give you back that money. You receive a full refund. And I think that's the part people miss, because it's like, oh, it's going to cost me 176 to remark, but then 300 and something to just rewrite. I might as well rewrite, and then you fail again, and then you go back and you rewrite. But the thing is, if you do get a change in score, you get $176 back. Everything, because they're basically apologizing.
Oh, you know, our bad. You speak good English. You're good. Here's your money back.
You will also be issued a new test report form stating your new score. Right now I'm going to show on the screen my old test report form. And in this form you can see my old result, which was 7.5, and then the new one, which also shows the updated score. And there's a letter that comes with it, which I should also be able to pop on the screen right now. Again, let's run through the points. You can get your test remarked within 6 weeks of getting your results. You may choose to have one or more of the test modules remarked, and you will be notified within 2 to 21 days of receipt of your application, and the remark fee is $176. Now let's move right down to the frequently asked questions, because this is where it gets important. The one that I'm really interested in is, who remarks my test? Okay, a team of senior IELTS examiners will mark your test again. Of course, none of these examiners will have marked your original test, and they also don't know your original test score. This ensures a fair remark. Tip number 2 here is that you should have peace of mind in doing this to an extent. If you know that you did really well in your preparation for the exam and that this score just doesn't reflect what you wrote, then have a peace of mind doing this, because when you're a lecturer and you have an exam, or we have an exam coming up, students have written their exams or they've submitted their essay, there's something we do called moderation, right? And so you would typically have a class of about 290-something students in a university setting. And so you wouldn't have just one lecturer that marks everything. So you have your markers, and you have the senior lecturer and whoever. We have a meeting, it's called a moderation meeting. And what we do is, of course, de-identified, send forth 3 essays to mark with the marking rubric to each of the markers. They put their score for each section and the summary and the justification as to why they have given that score. What happens in the moderation meeting is we then moderate. Let's say we're moderating the paper of student A. The first marker can give that same student 60 and I may give that same student 80. In a moderation meeting, we then say, oh, why did you give that student 60?
Well, because the student didn't mention this principle and that theory and this and that.
And I'm sitting here, well, but they did cover with examples. They may have not mentioned it explicitly, but is that worth 15 points? And then that marker will be like,
Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
and I'm like, yeah, I also see your point. So we might meet halfway at 70. So there's rarely a time where 3 markers, even with a marking rubric, mark a paper and you get exactly the same score. That's just the reality of things. You know, so if you're thinking, oh, you know, I'm just going to get the same score. No, just because they stated in their website that it's going to be a different person marking your paper, you should have that peace of mind. And we've also talked about the fact that you should get all the bands marked, all the different sections marked. And so they don't know which one to specifically focus on. Those are 2 tips, right? Another point to note is that if they do come back with an upgraded score, you will get your money back. You get your money back, you get the new test report, you feel great about yourself, and you will not have to write IELTS again, which is a plus on every level. Another point to note, and this is probably my final point, remember, not many people actually request for a remark, right? So there is that tendency that the marker or IELTS would actually appreciate the fact that you are probably not one to mess with. You probably know your coins. You probably know what you did, you probably know what you wrote, you probably were prepared for it. And so there's that leniency in terms of, okay, this person is requesting a remark for a purpose. Don't go and request a remark if you know you didn't do well, if you know that nobody can understand what English you wrote, that you can't even understand what English you wrote. Don't do it. Do not do it. If I'm sitting in my office and a student comes and requests for a remark, it gives me this feeling that this student knows what they're talking about, if that makes sense. So I'm just encouraging you, if you're stuck in IELTS thinking, oh my gosh, these people are evil, they don't want to give me my grade. First of all, the first things first, you need to prepare for your IELTS. You need to have the right resources. It's not necessarily everything that's on the IELTS website that's a sufficient or significant or ideal resource to use. There are other links that I even found more beneficial. Again, if you want me to make a video on some of those links, some tips and the structure on how to go in, do it one time and come out, I will make that video for you guys. I'm gonna end this video on one piece of advice. Keep going. You are going to get the score that you need. Don't be discouraged by any band or by the fact that you've written it a few times. Just don't go back to back booking. Take a step back, take a week or 2 and actually sit down and prepare for it. And I promise you, you're gonna get that score that you require. And don't be scared. Apply for that remark using the tips that I've just given you. And let me know in the comment section if you've done it before and if you got an upgrade. Let me know in the comment section if you did it after watching this video and got an upgrade. And let me know in the comment section if you did it and didn't get an upgrade, in which case I apologize. But yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more IELTS tips, more educational tips, because if you are writing IELTS, chances are you're coming in to do a course or for immigration, whatever the case may be. In this channel, we discuss all things doing diaspora, living in the diaspora, navigating the diaspora, and just doing diaspora well generally. So don't forget to subscribe for all of this wonderful stuff, and I'll see you in my next video.